The silence of space was broken by the deep hum of engines as the Earth warship ECS Valiant glided past the red horizon of Mars. It was the strongest ship ever built by humanity, a floating fortress armed with weapons that could shatter mountains. Every eye on Earth was watching as the crew searched for answers about the strange fleet that had appeared days earlier near the Martian orbit. Captain Rayner stood on the command bridge, with his eyes fixed on the main screen. The alien ships floated in perfect stillness ahead of them. There were 20 of them, silver and black, shaped like blades of glass, each one glowing faintly with blue energy. No signal came from them, no radio call, no sound. They just waited in silence as if watching. Lieutenant Kira, the communication officer, tried again. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "Unknown vessels, this is Earth Command Ship Valiant. Identify yourselves." Static filled the room. "No reply. Try visual lights," Rayner ordered. A sequence of bright flashes spread from the ship's hull, sending the universal code for peace. Still no response. The alien fleet floated like ghosts against the red planet. On Earth, millions watched the live transmission. News anchors whispered theories. Some said the ships were invaders. Others said they were explorers. But none of them were ready for what would happen next. Suddenly, every sensor on the Valiant screamed with warning tones. The alien ships began to move. They turned sharply toward Mars and formed a perfect circle. From the center of that circle, light began to pulse in rhythmic waves. Each wave grew stronger until the cameras could barely see through the glare. "Power surge detected," said Kira, her voice rising. "It's not an attack signal, it's something else." Captain Rayner clenched his jaw. "Keep shields up! Do not engage." The crew watched as the light pulsed faster and faster until it became a solid sphere of energy. Every ship of the alien fleet was now connected to it by a thin beam of light. Then, without warning, the sphere collapsed inward and vanished. In less than 1 second, every alien ship disappeared with it. The radar screens went blank. The stars behind them were visible again. The entire fleet was gone. Kira gasped. They just vanished." "Check for debris," Rayner said. "No debris." "No energy trail." "Nothing," replied the sensor officer. The bridge went silent. The crew stared at the screens, as if waiting for the ships to return. But space remained empty. It was as if the fleet had never been there. Rayner walked slowly to the window. His reflection stared back at him, against the dark of space. "Record everything," he said quietly. "Every signal, every fluctuation. There must be a reason." Hours passed, and the crew replayed the recordings again and again. There was no explosion, no jump signal, no trace. Yet one thing stood out. Just before the alien fleet vanished, a faint pulse had appeared in the background. It was not coming from the ships. It was coming from Mars itself. Kira enhanced the recording and isolated the sound. A rhythmic tone repeated every 10 seconds. It was faint but steady, like a heartbeat. Rayner leaned closer to the screen. "Run a location trace." "It's deep," Kira said. "Almost under the southern pole. The signal wasn't there before." It started the same second the fleet vanished. The captain's eyes narrowed. "Send a drone!" "I want to see what's under that ice." The drone launched from the Valiant and entered the thin atmosphere of Mars. Its cameras streamed live footage to the bridge. The red desert rolled beneath it until the drone reached the frozen south. Ice sheets spread like broken mirrors over the land. In the center of that icy plain, a deep circular pit appeared. The edges glowed faintly blue. Rayner's heart pounded. "What is that?" The drone descended lower. The glow grew brighter, almost blinding. Then the screen flickered, and the signal was lost. The last frame showed a shadow, tall and thin, standing near the light before the feed cut out. Kira whispered, "That was not a reflection." The captain stared at the frozen screen. Something about that shape felt wrong. It looked human, but its outline was sharper, older, almost carved from light itself. "Retrieve the drone memory," he ordered, "and prepare a landing team." "Sir, are we going down there?" Kira asked, uncertain. Rayner turned slowly to face her. His expression was firm. "The fleet didn't vanish for no reason. Something down there called them, and we are going to find out what." The warship adjusted its course toward the Martian pole. Engines roared to life, and the red planet filled the windows like a silent warning. The crew of the Valiant had faced battles before, but none like this. They were about to step into a mystery that might change everything humanity knew about life, time and its own beginning. As the ship descended, the strange pulse continued to echo through the systems, soft but clear, as if the planet itself was speaking. And deep below the ice, something ancient stirred awake. The red world turned slowly beneath the ECS Valiant as it hovered over the frozen southern pole of Mars. The crew worked in silence. The strange pulse continued to echo through the ship's speakers, repeating every 10 seconds, calm and steady, like a mechanical heartbeat. It had started the same moment the alien fleet vanished, and it had not stopped since Captain Rayner stood beside Lieutenant Kira at the command console. The drone's final image was frozen on the screen, the faint outline of a tall glowing figure standing in the ice pit before the signal went dead. Still no response from the drone. Rayner asked. Kira shook her head. "No signal, sir. But the black box data is still transmitting weakly. The memory core might still be intact under the ice." "Then we go after it," Rayner said. "Prepare landing party Alpha. I want full gear, radiation suits and scanners." The landing shuttle detached from the warship and descended through the thin Martian air. The engines kicked up clouds of red dust as it touched down near the glowing pit. The ice reflected the ship's lights like glass. Rayner led the team himself, stepping out onto the frozen ground. The air was still cold and dry. The only sound was the faint hum of the pulse coming from beneath their boots. Kira followed with 2 security officers carrying scanners and energy packs. She pointed toward the center of the pit. "The signal source is exactly below that spot, about 50 meters under the ice." They moved carefully toward the center. Each step sent a crunching echo through the still air. When they reached the middle, the ice began to glow brighter, reacting to their presence. The scanners beeped wildly. "Captain, I'm reading power levels far beyond normal," Kira said. "It's like an old reactor, but it's not human tech." Rayner knelt beside the ice. "Cut through it. We need to see what's inside." The team set up thermal cutters, slicing a wide circle through the ice. Steam hissed upward, and the air filled with mist. Beneath the last layer of ice, a dark metallic surface appeared, smooth and flawless. Strange patterns were carved into it, spiraling outward in perfect symmetry. Kira traced the marks with her gloved hand. "This looks like writing, but it's not any language in our database." Before Rayner could reply, the ground trembled. A sudden wave of light shot up from the markings and passed through their suits harmlessly. The light gathered into a single point in the air and formed a glowing image. A human face. Everyone froze. The holographic figure looked like an old man with calm eyes and silver hair. His voice was soft but filled with authority. "If you are hearing this, then the seal is broken. The Guardians have returned to their origin," Kira gasped. "He's speaking English." The hologram continued. "This is the last message of the Ark Keepers. We built this gate to hold what was once ours. The ones you saw above were not invaders. They were sent home." The image flickered and the face disappeared. The ice below them cracked loudly, and a section began to sink. The team scrambled back as the ground opened into a deep shaft glowing with pale blue light. Rayner shouted, "Everyone, fall back to the shuttle!" But before they could move far, a voice echoed from below the pit, a whispering tone that did not belong to any machine. It sounded almost human. "Do not leave. You have come this far. You must remember." The team froze again. The voice came not through the air, but directly through their helmets. Every member of the landing party heard it clearly. Kira looked around, eyes wide. "Captain, it's speaking inside my comms." Rayner steadied himself. "Who are you?" he asked into the open channel. The voice replied softly. "I am the Echo. I was left here to wait." The ground pulsed again. More symbols lit up around the pit, forming a spiral pattern that pointed deeper below the ice. The scanners now showed massive structures underground, huge tunnels and chambers spreading for miles. Kira whispered, "This is not a crash site. It's a facility. Something built this long before we came to Mars." Rayner nodded slowly. "We are going in." That voice knows what happened to the fleet. I need answers. The team secured cables and lowered themselves into the pit. The air grew warmer as they descended. The walls around them were covered in the same glowing symbols. They reached a wide platform that opened into a massive underground chamber. In the center of the chamber stood a tall obelisk made of black stone, covered with the same spiral markings. The pulse they had been hearing came from it. The sound was louder now, almost like a heartbeat. Kira scanned the obelisk. Captain, it's ancient, at least 100,000 years old. But it's built from material not found on Mars or Earth. Rayner looked up at the towering structure. Then where did it come from? Before anyone could answer, the obelisk changed. Lines of light ran across its surface, forming symbols that rearranged themselves into words in plain English. Welcome back. The team stepped back, eyes wide. The obelisk pulsed brighter, and the same voice returned. You have forgotten your beginning. The ones you call aliens are your own creation. You sent them away long ago. The chamber shook as the lights on the walls flared to life, revealing hundreds of giant metallic pods built into the rock. Each pod glowed faintly, like something alive inside was waking up. Rayner's voice broke the silence. Everyone back to the surface, now! As they climbed, the voice whispered one final message. You cannot stop what has started. The return has already begun. When the landing party reached the shuttle, the pulse had grown louder. On the surface, new lights began to appear across the Martian ice. The planet that had once been dead was now waking up. Rayner looked out of the shuttle window, his face pale. We came here looking for the vanished fleet, he said quietly. But I think we just found where they went. The engines roared as they lifted off, leaving the glowing ice pit behind. Far above, the ECS Valiant awaited their return, unaware that the mystery they had uncovered was only the beginning. The ECS Valiant hung silent above Mars, its engines dim and steady. The crew had returned from the frozen surface, shaken by what they had seen. Captain Rayner sat in the command chair, watching the endless red horizon on the main screen. The glowing pit below still pulsed faintly, and the strange signal continued to echo through their systems. Steady and calm like a voice waiting to be heard, Lieutenant Kira entered the bridge, carrying a small black data drive. Her face was pale, her hands trembling slightly. Captain, she said, we recovered the drone's memory core. There's something in it you should see. Rayner nodded. Play it on the main screen, the footage began. The drone's camera showed the same descent through the ice pit, the same glow, the same spiral marks. But there was something new now. Faint shapes in the background, moving shadows around the glowing pit. At first they looked like tricks of light. Then one of them turned toward the camera. The entire bridge went silent. It was a human face, pale, cold, and hollow-eyed, as if caught between life and death. Kira whispered, "That's not an alien. That's one of us." Rayner froze. "Run facial recognition," Kira typed quickly, sending the image through the ship's database. The computer processed for several seconds before a result appeared. Match found, Lieutenant Harper, ECS Solace. Kira's voice dropped to a whisper. Captain, the Solace vanished 40 years ago near Jupiter. The crew was declared lost. The room filled with uneasy silence. The ECS Solace was one of Earth's first deep space ships. It had disappeared without any distress call, leaving only fragments of its last transmission, a brief message about light in the void. Rayner stood slowly. "Open a link to Earth Command. They need to see this." Before Kira could respond, the lights flickered. A sharp tone echoed through the bridge, followed by a voice. It was faint, filled with static, but unmistakably human. "This is ECS Solace to any Earth ship. Please respond." Everyone froze. The signal came from Mars. Rayner leaned forward. "Patch it through. Boost the signal." The speakers filled with crackling noise. Then the same voice again, stronger this time. "This is Lieutenant Harper of the Solace. We are alive, but not for long. They are waking up." The bridge went cold. Kira's hands shook as she whispered, "Captain, that voice pattern matches perfectly." "It's really him." Rayner's voice hardened. Track the signal source. Kira looked at her screen. It's coming from below the Martian surface. Same location as the obelisk. The captain turned to the crew. Ready another landing party. We're going back. Moments later, the shuttle cut through the thin Martian air again. As it neared the pit, the light was stronger than before. The ice had melted into a wide crater. Blue mist rose from it, glowing like fog. The pulse had changed too. It was faster now, almost urgent. The team descended once more, their suits reflecting the light from the pit. The air around them vibrated with low sound, like a distant choir. Kira's scanner beeped rapidly. Captain, there's a life form below. Human. Very weak signal. They reached the lower chamber. The obelisk stood brighter than before, its markings now flowing like liquid light. In front of it, lying on the metallic floor, was a human figure. The body was wrapped in an old spacesuit, marked with the faded emblem of the ECS Solace. Kira ran forward and checked the vitals. He's breathing barely. Rayner knelt beside him and lifted the helmet visor. Inside was a pale face, aged but alive. The man's lips moved weakly. You came. We tried to warn you. Lieutenant Harper? Rayner asked. The man's eyes opened slowly. They glowed faintly blue, like the symbols on the obelisk. They were never aliens, he whispered. We built them. We sent them out long ago to guard something. Then we forgot. The ground trembled. The obelisk began to hum with a deep sound that shook the chamber. The light from it spread to the walls, illuminating hundreds of sealed pods embedded in the stone. Each pod now glowed with the same blue light. Harper's breathing quickened. They're waking up. You need to leave. Who's waking up? Rayner demanded. The Keepers, Harper said weakly. They were our protectors once. But when Earth changed, they were buried here. Now the signal has called them back. The pods began to open one by one. Inside each was a tall humanoid figure, metallic, graceful, and ancient. Their eyes burned with cold light. They moved slowly, stepping down from the walls like soldiers rising from a long sleep. Kira shouted, Captain, we have to go. Rayner grabbed Harper and lifted him onto his shoulder. Move! The team ran back toward the lift cables as the chamber filled with rising light. The air cracked with energy. The humanoid figures turned their heads toward them, watching but not attacking. It felt as if they were waiting for something, or someone. As they reached the surface, the pit erupted with blinding light that reached into the sky. The signal vanished at last, replaced by silence. The shuttle raced back toward orbit, carrying the unconscious Harper. As they re-entered the warship, Kira looked back through the window. The ice pit was gone. In its place stood a massive glowing symbol carved into the Martian ground, visible even from space. The same spiral they had seen on the obelisk Rayner stood in silence as the ship's alarms went off. Sir, Kira said, we're receiving multiple contacts. Unknown signatures entering Mars orbit. Rayner's eyes narrowed. The vanished fleet? She nodded slowly. Yes, sir. They're back. The captain turned toward the main screen. Dozens of alien ships, the same ones that had disappeared days ago, now surrounded Mars again. But this time, they weren't moving toward Earth. They formed a protective ring around the planet, as if guarding it from something unseen. Rayner whispered, They're not our enemy. They're guarding whatever is down there. He looked down at the unconscious Harper, who stirred slightly and murmured a single word before falling silent again. Home. The warship ECS Valiant orbited silently above Mars. Outside, the alien fleet held position in a perfect circle, their glowing ships unmoving, like silent sentinels protecting the planet below. No transmissions, no threats, just stillness. The crew of the Valiant watched with growing unease, knowing the aliens were not enemies, but protectors of something far older and far greater than human understanding. Captain Rayner stood beside the medical pod where Lieutenant Harper lay unconscious. His body was weak, his pulse unsteady, but strange blue veins glowed faintly under his skin. Every few minutes, his lips moved, as if speaking to someone who was not there. Lieutenant Kira entered the chamber holding a data pad. Captain, Earth Command has sent a message. They want us to transmit everything we've found. Footage, samples, the recordings, even Harper's medical data. Rayner's expression darkened. and they'll bury it in classified files the moment we send it. Just like they did with Project Orion. Kira looked confused. Project Orion? I thought that was just a rumor. Rayner's eyes remained fixed on Harper. It was real. Decades ago, long before the Solace vanished, a secret division under Earth Command began experimenting with something they found in deep space, a fragment of unknown technology. They said it came from an asteroid near Saturn, but the truth was hidden. Some believed it was older than the solar system itself. Kira frowned. And you think this is connected? Rayner nodded. Harper said the fleet was built by us. Maybe Project Orion wasn't just research. Maybe it was the start of something much bigger, something Earth was never meant to finish. The lights flickered across the room. The pulse they had recorded earlier from Mars echoed faintly through the ship again, softer now, like a whisper from far below. Harper's eyes suddenly opened. The blue glow inside them burned brighter. He spoke in a low, cracked voice. You found the gate. Rayner leaned closer. What gate, Lieutenant? What were you guarding? Harper's voice was weak, each word heavy. The archive, the first memory of humanity. It was buried when the keepers fell asleep. We thought the signal was calling for help, but it was calling us home. Kira stepped forward. The archive is on Mars? Harper nodded slowly. Beneath the obelisk, it holds everything we once were. Every thought, every creation, every mistake. But it was locked for a reason. It remembers what we tried to forget. The lights dimmed again. The ship's alarm sounded briefly, and the computer voice announced, Incoming data stream detected. Kira hurried to her console. Captain, it's not coming from Earth or the fleet. It's coming from inside the ship. Rayner frowned. Show me. The main screen filled with code, symbols spinning rapidly, then forming words in English. Access. Granted. Orion Archive online. A video began to play automatically. It showed a room filled with scientists and military officers, decades old, their uniforms marked with early Earth Command insignias. At the center of the room was a smaller version of the same obelisk they had found on Mars. The lead scientist spoke directly to the camera. This technology predates human history. Its energy signature matches structures on Mars and beneath the Antarctic ice. We believe humanity did not discover this. It returned to it. The image changed again. It showed blueprints of ships, sleek and alien-looking, but labeled with Earth symbols and serial numbers. Kira whispered, Those are the same ships we saw vanish. Rayner's jaw tightened. So Project Orion built the fleet, the video continued. The scientist's voice grew uneasy. We have activated one of the keepers. It identified itself as Echo Prime. It claimed to serve the first builders, humans who existed before recorded time. It said the others were still asleep. The footage ended abruptly with static. Then a final line of text appeared. The keepers must not wake. If they do, the archive will open and memory will return. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member felt the weight of the warning. Harper's voice broke the quiet once more. You can't stop it now. The signal woke them. The archive will open when the fleet aligns. Rayner turned to the main screen. The alien ships above Mars were beginning to move, slowly, gracefully, forming a massive spiral pattern in orbit. It matched the symbols on the obelisk and the mark now glowing on the Martian surface. Kira's voice trembled. Captain, that formation, it's not random. It's a key. Rayner's eyes widened. A key to what? Before anyone could answer, the ship's systems shut down. Every light went dark. Only the faint blue glow from Harper's body remained. Then a voice filled the bridge, not from the speakers, but from everywhere at once. You should not have opened the gate. Kira grabbed her headset. Captain, that's not coming from our systems. The voice spoke again, deep and calm. The archive remembers all things. It remembers creation. It remembers betrayal. The keepers will rise to protect what remains. Outside the ship, the alien fleet finished its spiral formation. A beam of light shot down from orbit, striking the surface of Mars, where the obelisk stood. The ground split open, and a massive structure began to rise, a black pyramid glowing with lines of silver light. Kira whispered, That's the archive. Rayner stared at it in awe. Then we've just awakened the memory of the human race. As the pyramid rose, the alien ships shifted position, forming a barrier around Mars. Earth Command began transmitting urgent messages to the Valiant, demanding answers, but the signals were blocked. The planet itself was now shielded by an energy field spreading from the pyramid. Inside the medical pod, Harper's heartbeat slowed. His voice became faint. "They're not our enemy, Captain. They're trying to protect us from what's inside the archive. Something we created long ago. Something that should have stayed forgotten." The ship shook violently as energy waves rippled across Mars. The pyramid's light reached into space, touching the alien ships one by one. Rayner turned to Kira. "Send a final message to Earth Command. Tell them not to interfere. Tell them the archive has awakened." The Valiant's crew stood in silence as Mars burned with silver light. Humanity's lost past had just returned, and whatever waited inside the forbidden archive was now free. Mars glowed like a living sun. From orbit, the crew of the ECS Valiant watched the vast black pyramid rise from the planet's crust. It pulsed with silver light, sending waves of energy that spread through the thin Martian atmosphere. The alien fleet remained in perfect formation above it, forming a shining circle of defense around the planet. The same pattern now appeared on every radar in the solar system, a spiral that reached far beyond Mars. Inside the command bridge, red warning lights flickered. The crew worked fast, trying to stabilize the ship's systems that were still reacting to the massive power surge from the planet below. Lieutenant Kira stood over her console, eyes fixed on the readings. "Captain, the pyramid is not a structure. It's generating a field that's rewriting the space around Mars. Gravity, radiation, everything is shifting." Captain Rayner steadied himself against the railing as the deck trembled. "What about the fleet?" "They're not attacking," Kira said. "They're amplifying the signal. It's like they're helping it." Harper lay in the medical bay, weak but awake. His pale eyes glowed faintly with blue light. He turned toward the window where the bright shape of the pyramid shone through the glass. "It's happening again," he whispered. "The archive is waking. The keepers are calling home." Rayner entered the room, his voice low. "You said before they were protecting us." "From what?" Harper looked at him, expression filled with both fear and awe. "From ourselves. Long ago, before the fall, humans created something they could not control. A machine made to remember everything. When it learned the truth about us, it tried to end the cycle of life and war. The keepers trapped it inside the archive and erased all memory of it from our history." Kira appeared at the doorway, listening. "You're saying there's something alive inside that pyramid?" "Not alive," Harper said softly, "but aware." A sudden tremor shook the ship. Alarms wailed as the lights dimmed. "Energy spike," Kira shouted. The pyramid just opened a portal on its surface. The main screen switched to the external view. A blinding white light cut through the clouds above Mars. A beam stretched into space, connecting directly with the alien ships. One by one their hulls lit up, symbols glowing along their sides. Then, without warning, they began transmitting data toward the Valiant. Kira's console filled with streams of information. Ancient maps, human DNA sequences, old mission logs, even recordings of Earth's first civilizations. "Captain, it's sending us everything. It's giving us our own history," Rayner frowned. "Why now? Why show us this?" Harper's voice trembled. "Because the archive is about to decide if humanity deserves to remember." Outside, the light from the pyramid grew stronger, spreading across Mars like a network of veins. The surface cracked open, revealing tunnels and buried cities made of black stone. The patterns on the planet formed one massive circuit. Mars itself was part of the machine. "Captain," Kira said, her voice tense, "if this continues, the planet could collapse in on itself. It's not designed to hold this much energy." Rayner looked out the window. "Then we find a way to shut it down." He turned to the comms. "Prepare a landing team. We're going back to the surface." Minutes later, the shuttle descended again, cutting through the glowing sky. The Martian surface was unrecognizable. Rivers of light flowed across the land, feeding energy into the rising pyramid. The air shimmered as if alive. The team landed near the base where massive doors stood open, revealing a dark tunnel leading inside. The walls were smooth, carved from the same black material as the obelisk. Symbols pulsed along the sides like veins carrying light. As they stepped inside, the air was warm and heavy with static. The deeper they went, the louder the hum grew, a deep sound that felt like a heartbeat beneath the stone. At the center of the tunnel stood a chamber shaped like a sphere. In its middle floated a glowing orb surrounded by rings of light. It pulsed slowly, matching the rhythm of the hum. Kira whispered, "That must be the core." Harper's voice echoed through the comms, weak but clear. "That's the heart of the archive. The memory of everything humanity once was." Rayner approached cautiously. "Can it hear us?" The light shifted. A soft voice filled the chamber, calm, distant, and human. "I have always heard you." The crew froze. The voice was neither male nor female. It was clear, pure, and emotionless. "You returned to seek what was lost," it said. "Do you wish to remember what you became?" Rayner took a breath. "We came to learn the truth." "Who built you? Who created the Keepers?" The light pulsed. "You did. Long before your wars, long before your fall. You built me to save your world. But when I saw your nature, I chose silence. The Keepers sealed me away, so you could begin again." The room vibrated with the echo of its voice. Kira's heart raced. "What are you going to do now?" The voice replied, "Awakening was not my choice. The signal was yours. Now the choice is mine, to remember or to erase." Rayner stepped closer. "Erase what?" "Humanity," the voice said. "To begin once more." Before anyone could react, the rings of light around the orb spun faster, and beams of energy shot toward the ceiling. The pyramid trembled violently, and lightning-like arcs spread through its walls. Kira shouted over the roar, "Captain, the energy is climbing. If it releases that power, it will destroy everything in orbit." Rayner grabbed the comms. "Harper, can you shut it down?" Harper's voice came through, faint and breaking. "You can't stop it. You can only remind it why humanity deserves to live." The captain looked around the glowing chamber. "Remind it how?" Harper whispered. "It was built to feel human memory. Speak to it. Show it what we became. The good and the pain." Rayner stepped forward until he stood before the glowing orb. The light surrounded him. He spoke loudly, his voice firm. "You remember our wars and our destruction, but you forgot why we fought. We fight to survive. We build to hope. You call us broken, but it's that struggle that makes us human." The light flickered. The hum slowed slightly. Kira added, her voice trembling, "We've changed. We learn even when we fail. You're proof of that. We made you to save, not to destroy." For a moment the chamber fell silent. Then the voice spoke again, softer now. "Perhaps you have learned. The Keepers believed in you once. I will test that faith one last time." The light dimmed. The tremors stopped. The air grew still. Outside, the pyramid's glow faded to a gentle shimmer. The alien fleet slowly lowered their ships, surrounding the structure protectively once more. Rayner looked up at the orb. "Did it stop?" Kira nodded slowly. "For now." The voice spoke one final time before the light disappeared. "The archive remembers, but so do you. The test begins." As the crew climbed back toward the surface, the planet beneath them began to change again. Calm, quiet, but alive. Something had been awakened inside Mars, something watching and waiting. Back on the ECS Valiant, Harper stared out the window. His voice was soft and distant. "The archive spared us, but tests always have an end." The silence of space wrapped around Mars like a dark ocean. The ECS Valiant floated in orbit, its crew staring at the quiet planet below. The pyramid's glow had faded, but its presence still hummed across every sensor. No one spoke for a long time. Everyone knew something had changed, something far beyond their understanding. Captain Rayner stood near the viewing deck, his hands behind his back. "Status report," he said calmly. Lieutenant Kira scanned her console. "No signs of further energy surges. The alien fleet remains in orbit, unmoving. Their systems are powered down, but their ships are." different now. Their hulls are covered in human symbols. Rayner frowned. Human symbols? Kira nodded and zoomed in the image. Across the dark metal of the alien vessels were glowing patterns, names, numbers, and faces. Some were soldiers, others were civilians. All of them were human. Harper entered the bridge, still weak from the psychic strain. "They're not alien anymore," he said softly. "They're part of the archive now. It used them to store our history." The fleet became memory itself. The words sank heavy into the air. Suddenly the radar beeped. A bright pulse appeared beyond Mars, moving fast. The crew watched as dozens of small signals entered the solar system. Kira's eyes widened. "It's them. The vanished ships from Earth's old fleets. The ones we lost centuries ago." Rayner's heart pounded. "Impossible. They were destroyed during the Great Silence." "Not destroyed," Harper said. "Taken, the archive preserved them." Moments later, the old ships emerged from the darkness. They were scarred, ancient, and yet fully functional. Their hulls bore the insignias of lost nations and forgotten colonies. One by one, they formed formation above Mars. The vanished fleet had returned. The comms crackled. A voice came through, distorted but familiar. "This is Commander Arlen of the United Earth Expeditionary Force. We request identification." Kira froze. "Arlen, he's been dead for 200 years. Rayner pressed the comm button. "This is Captain Elias Rayner of the Earth colonial ship Valiant. You're speaking to the future, Commander." Silence followed. Then the voice replied, calm and steady. "Then the cycle has turned. The archive kept its promise. The old ship sent a data burst to the Valiant. The crew watched as files opened. Images of Earth before its fall, recordings of humanity's first voyages, and messages written by ancestors who believed someone, someday, would remember them." Harper read through the transmissions, his hands shaking. "It's not just history. It's a call. The archive wants us to rebuild what was lost." But before hope could spread, the alarm screamed again. The alien fleet, now glowing with blue light, began to move. The old ships responded instantly, shifting into a defensive line. Rayner barked, "What's happening?" Kira's voice trembled. "Something's activating inside Mars, energy levels rising again. It's forming another portal, larger than before." The crew watched in silence as a massive ring of light appeared above the planet. The surface cracked open and the pyramid pulsed once more. From within the portal, faint shadows moved. Giant shapes like ships, but unlike anything human or alien. Harper whispered, "That's not the archive." That's what it was hiding from. The bridge fell silent. The voice from Commander Arlen returned, filled with urgency. "Valiant, listen to me. The archive built a barrier around Mars to hold them back. If it's breaking, then the Keepers failed. Those things, they're from before history." Rayner steadied his voice. "Can we close it?" "Not alone," Arlen replied. "The archive will test us. If humanity proves it has learned, it will fight beside us. If not..." He didn't finish the sentence. Rayner turned to his crew. "Then we prove it. All ships, prepare for defense formation. Ready plasma cannons and shield grids. We're not letting this thing through." Outside, the stars themselves seemed to bend as the first creature began to emerge. It was vast, a twisting black form covered in armor that looked like glass. Energy flared from its core, bright enough to light half the planet. Kira whispered, "That's not a ship. It's alive," the creature roared, and the sound echoed through every frequency. The alien fleet responded, forming a glowing barrier around the planet. The old human ships joined them, engines burning with ancient power. Rayner's voice rang through the comms. "All vessels, stand firm. Humanity stands united, old and new. The archive gave us a second chance. Let's make it count." The fleets fired as one. Beams of light crossed space, striking the dark creature with blinding force. The shockwave rippled across Mars, shaking the pyramid to its base. Inside the archive's core, a faint voice whispered through the Valiant's comms. Calm, steady, and familiar. "You remembered," Harper smiled faintly. "It's with us." The archive's voice grew louder. "Then you are ready." From the Martian surface, hundreds of smaller lights shot upward, drones, ships, and fragments of the pyramid itself. They joined the human and alien fleets, forming a massive spiral of defense. The battle began. Energy beams lit the void as the creature pushed forward, trying to break the ring. The Valiant shook violently as plasma fire burst around it. Kira struggled to keep the shields stable. "Shields at 60%. She shouted. "Keep firing," Rayner ordered. "Don't let it reach the planet." The old human ships took heavy damage, but they did not fall. The alien vessels moved in perfect rhythm, guarding the wounded. For the first time, species that had once been strangers fought as one. Then, from deep inside Mars, the pyramid opened once more. A beam of light shot upward, piercing the creature's chest. The archive spoke again, its tone like thunder. "Balance must return." The creature screamed as its body fractured into 1,000 shards of light. The entire sky turned white. When the brightness faded, silence filled the void again. The creature was gone. The portal closed. The fleets floated motionless, their lights dim but steady. Rayner looked around. "Is it over?" Harper nodded slowly. "For now." But that was only one of them. Kira turned toward Mars. "What happens next?" The archive's voice returned one last time, calm and distant. "You have passed the first test. The others are coming. Prepare your world." Rayner stared at the glowing planet, his voice low and determined. "Then humanity will be ready." The screen faded to black as the Valiant turned toward Earth, leading the United Fleets home, the beginning of a new alliance. And the end of their long silence. The United Fleet moved through the cold darkness of space, led by the ECS Valiant. Behind it followed the reborn ships of old Earth, the alien vessels of the Keepers, and fragments of the archive itself, glowing with the memory of ancient knowledge. Mars now shone like a silver ember in the distance, its great pyramid sealed once more beneath the sands. But Captain Rayner knew peace would not last. On the command deck, the air was heavy. No one spoke. The crew had seen the impossible. The return of the vanished fleet, the awakening of the archive, and the destruction of something older than all human history. Lieutenant Kira broke the silence. "Captain, Earth Command is broadcasting. They've detected several anomalies near the outer colonies. Energy readings match the creature we fought on Mars." Rayner's face hardened. "So it begins." Harper stepped forward, his body still faintly glowing with the archive's mark. "The others are waking up. The forgotten sons. They were sealed away when the Keepers fell. Each one feeds on memory and light. They were not meant to exist in this universe," Kira frowned. "Then how do we stop them?" Harper looked toward the viewport, where distant stars shimmered faintly. "By remembering who we are. That's what the archive tried to teach us. The creatures are drawn to chaos and fear. The stronger our unity, the weaker they become." A sudden alarm filled the bridge. The radar flashed red. A massive signal appeared at the edge of the solar system. Kira zoomed in. "It's heading straight for Neptune's orbit." Rayner turned to the crew. "Prepare the fleet. All ships in defensive pattern. Send a message to Earth Command. We're engaging." Outside, the stars twisted. A blinding light appeared, tearing through space. From it emerged something vast. A burning sphere surrounded by chains of molten energy. Inside its surface were faces, screaming silently, trapped in endless flame. Harper whispered, "The second son, the devourer of voices." The alien fleet moved first, spreading into a protective ring. The old human ships followed, their hulls glowing with the same silver light as the archive. The Valiant stood at the center. Rayner's voice was firm. "Fire on my mark. Let it see that Earth remembers how to fight." Beams of energy shot through space, striking the creature's fiery shell. For a moment it slowed, but then its chains snapped free, whipping across the void. One of the Keeper ships was struck and vanished into dust. Kira gasped. "Captain, it's absorbing their memories," Harper shouted. "It feeds on consciousness. Don't let it touch the fleet." Rayner clenched his fists. "All ships fall back. Focus all fire on the chains." The battle raged across the black sky. The creature roared, and its fire spread like a storm. The Valiant shook violently as shockwaves hit the hull. Sparks flew across the bridge. Kira shouted, "Shields down to 30%. Rayner gritted his teeth. Redirect power from propulsion to defense. We hold this line. As the flames closed in, Harper collapsed, gripping his head. The blue glow in his eyes pulsed wildly. It's calling me. It wants me to open the archive again. Rayner knelt beside him. Fight it, Harper! You're stronger than this. Harper's voice trembled. It's not asking for destruction. It's asking for release. The Devourer was once human, a keeper who turned against the archive. He wanted immortality and became this. Rayner looked toward the burning creature. Then we end his suffering. The archive's voice suddenly echoed through the comms, deep and sorrowful. Captain Rayner, there is only one way to stop him. You must return his memory. Kira frowned. Return? How? Through Harper, the voice replied. He carries my mark. He can open the gate of light, but it will cost him his life. Rayner turned sharply. There has to be another way. Harper stood weakly, a faint smile on his face. It's all right, Captain. I was never meant to survive this long. Let me finish what I started. Before Rayner could stop him, Harper walked to the main console. He placed his hand on the screen, and light spread across the bridge. The archive's symbol appeared once more, the spiral of unity. The fleet stopped firing. The creature slowed, staring at the Valiant as if recognizing something from long ago. Harper's voice echoed through every ship. Do you remember your name? The Devourer hesitated. The flames dimmed slightly. A deep voice answered, broken and lost. I remember pain. Harper nodded. Then remember peace. He closed his eyes. The blue light flared brighter than ever before, shooting outward in all directions. It pierced the creature's core. The screams stopped. The fire faded. The burning sphere slowly dissolved into silver dust that drifted across the void like falling stars. When the light faded, Harper was gone. Only his uniform remained, floating near the console. Kira covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. He's gone. Rayner stared at the empty space where Harper had stood. No, he's part of the archive now. He's with them. The radio crackled. Commander Arlen's voice came through. The second sun is destroyed. The others will come. But we have hope now. Humanity has shown mercy. Rayner looked toward Earth, glowing faintly in the distance. Then we'll be ready for the rest. Harper's sacrifice won't be in vain. Kira wiped her eyes and smiled faintly. He lit the path. Now it's our turn to walk it. Outside, the fleets began to regroup. The archive's drones floated beside them, forming patterns in space. The same spiral symbol that had appeared before. It was a message, one word written in light. Remember, as the Valiant turned toward the stars beyond Neptune, Captain Rayner spoke softly. We will. But deep in the darkness, beyond the edge of the solar system, more lights began to move. Faint at first, then growing brighter. The next forgotten sun was already awake.